Welcome everyone to our Penn Engineering Online Admissions webinar for today. My name is Olivia Roth and I'm the Director of Online Academic Programs. I am thrilled to have you join us today because we have a double feature. We're going to start off with talking to some of our current students in the MCIT Online program, and then we'll follow that with our Program Director, Professor Tom Farmer, talking through some of the admissions basics for our MCIT Online flagship program. So let's go ahead and get started, and I can help with introductions here. So I already introduced myself. I will say before we get started, a few housekeeping things. Once our presentation gets started, you'll have the opportunity to ask questions with the Q&A tool. So Zoom has a menu of different options, and the Q&A tool is where you can submit questions. We have our admissions team behind the scenes answering questions, but then as well, once we get through the presentation with the current students, I will take a look at some of the questions that you have asked them and throw it to the students to answer live. If you are joining by phone, we don't have a way for you to submit questions right now while you're listening, but you can always send us an email at online-admissions@seas.upenn.edu, and our team will get back to you very quickly. So our next admissions deadline is October 15th for the spring 2022 cohort. And now it's my pleasure to introduce our program director, Dr. Farmer.
Hello, my name is Tom Farmer. I'm the program director of MCIT Online, just recently become, and I'm pleased to be with you all today. I'm also an instructor in the program. I've been with MCIT Online since its inception, and I teach a course called CIT 593, which is an introduction to computer architecture. And a little bit about me is I have a PhD in computer engineering, but I have an undergraduate and a master's degree in computer science. I worked for a long time as a computer programmer, and then I did my master's degree at night. I commuted. Unfortunately, they didn't have good online programs yet, like this one. I wish I could have been part of MCIT Online. And after I finished my master's, I decided I'd go back for my PhD in computer engineering. So I am 100% with all of you that are, maybe working at the same time as doing your schoolwork. And I'm excited to have all of you here today, and I'm excited to get started with our program here today. Thanks, Olivia.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. And let's go ahead and introduce our three students that we have that graciously joined us today. So let's start with you, Melissa. So just tell us quickly your name and how long you've been in the degree program and kind of what you're hoping to do with the degree.
Sure. My name is Melissa Amaya. I joined the program in spring of 2019, part of the first cohort for the program. So guinea pig / pioneer, pick your poison there. I am currently working in the ed tech field in a tech adjacent role as an implementation engineer. Probably going to stay in this role through graduation, but post-graduation, I may look for a solid software engineering role. I probably would move in that direction. And my undergrad was in business. I actually went to Penn as an undergrad, and my background prior to transitioning to tech is completely non-tech related. So I do fit the typical non-tech background person using this program to transition into tech.
Awesome, thank you. Okay, Sean, go ahead.
Thank you, Olivia. And wow, tough act to follow there with Melissa's great introduction. My name is Sean Bivens. I joined 1 year later in the spring 2020 cohort. So I'm about 70% done with the master's program, looking to graduate in May of next year. And so I'm currently a full-time student. My background coming into the program was in finance. I actually also went to UPenn undergrad and worked in finance for a couple of years. And I'm looking to also work in software engineering after, and maybe after a few years of software engineering, blend my business background with my newfound tech skills in sort of a product management role. So yeah, that's me.
For some reason, I thought you were going to say, and then I'll come back and teach for the program. I was like, oh, I hope that's what he's going to say. That would be great.
I'm flattered.
Yeah. Okay, and finally, Stephen.
Hi, I'm Stephen Wang. Like Melissa, I also started in spring 2019, and I'm not a recent alum. I just finished all my coursework literally 2 weeks ago. So I'm really happy about that. Basically, right now I work as a tax specialist, and I'm planning to use my degree to transition to software engineering.
And did you also go to Penn as an undergrad?
I did not go to Penn as undergrad, University of Chicago for undergrad. And, my bachelor's is in political science. I took absolutely no computer science courses in college, had no technical background. But now after MCIT, I feel totally at ease with, I guess everything I've learned in computer science.
That's awesome. Thank you. Well, yes, thank you again so much for joining us. We have a couple of questions that we're going to ask you. And as I was saying before, whoever is feeling like really moved to answer can just go ahead and chime in. So we'll just get started. So the first question is, how would you describe the MCIT online community and how have you been involved with it?
Okay, I feel so moved. I'll kick us off.
I was going to say, if you don't say something, Melissa.
I had the unique experience, like Stephen, of being in the first cohort. So it was a much smaller cohort. It was really easy. I think I probably knew everybody in that initial cohort. It's grown tremendously, which simply means there are more amazing people with incredibly diverse backgrounds. It's so interesting and fun to hear where different people are coming from. The community, I think, is one of the highlights of this program. You definitely have to interact with the community. Nobody's going to be pinging you saying, hey, come and talk to us. But if you choose to engage, students are supportive, encouraging. Folks are super willing and eager to help explain a concept or chat on career things or just about life. Like, I think not only have I met some incredible classmates, but I feel like I'm soon to be walking away from this program with great friends and colleagues. I'll watch their careers as they grow. I think they would say the same about me, and we're really excited to see where each other go in the future. I've been involved in the community specifically in a few different ways. I was part of MOOC, which is the student-led organization. I was a co-chair for the Entrepreneurship and Jobs Committee. We ran a few webinars. You may have actually seen them. I think they're on the YouTube channel somewhere, where we interviewed different people in industry. Two particular that come to mind was a CTO at my old job and a data scientist, giving just a view of those two different aspects. That's not what the question was. So the community is fantastic. And I think you get out of it what you put in. And I'll stop talking now.
And I'll just piggyback off of that. Sorry, Stephen.
No, go ahead.
All right, you get the next one. I want to just give a quick anecdote on what Melissa spoke to about this online community. She's totally right that it is kind of, you get out of it what you put into it. No one's going to invite you or kind of force you to interact on Slack. But once you do, you will realize the sheer, almost overwhelming, just positive community that's out there. As an example, one summer I was looking to pick up a little bit of Python skills at the time before Python was introduced in 591, the intro class. And I, for the first time ever, posted something in the community channel, which is something that all of the students in the program see. And I was not expecting a response right away, but just asking, for some guidance on how to learn. And almost within seconds, I had about 10 responses. And so just to show that if you say something, you will get responses, and the community is there like that. So, and I had never experienced anything like that before.
That's awesome. Go ahead, Steve.
Yeah, I mean, I would just totally echo everything that Melissa and Sean have said. I would also just kind of advise you that, yeah, I mean, I think all of us have like a lot of channels. You know, we get a lot of emails, a lot of messages, a lot of texts. But you know, if you apply to the program, I think you should definitely make the effort to engage, because you're not just going to meet a lot of amazing people, but like, you know, whatever your struggles you may be experiencing in the program, like if you're having trouble understanding concept in class, or maybe you're just stressed out. I mean, it is an incredibly supportive community. I mean, it's just fantastic just how resourceful and really kind of genuinely caring. All my classmates have been. I mean, you're going to meet some amazing people. You know, if you remember nothing else from this webinar, I feel it should be, just make that effort to engage your fellow students. It'll be so rewarding.
Yeah, and I mean, what I see also is like just a lot of generosity in terms of networking wise. Like there's different channels devoted to, stuff about internships or stuff about jobs. And so people will say, hey, my company is hiring, if you want to connect with the recruitment officer, let me know. Or, it's like your network just expands exponentially as the program increases. Sorry, this is kind of not really on the list, but I was just thinking another way to sort of participate in the community is to be a TA. And I know one or more of you have been TAs. So could you speak to what that has been like, how that has sort of influenced your experience of the community?
Sure. So I've had the privilege of TAing for two different classes. I TA'd for Professor Farmer here for 593, and as well as 595, which is 593 is a prerequisite for 595. It gives you an opportunity to engage with the professor in a way beyond the coursework. I have found all the professors super engaging on the student side. Like they're available, they hold either office hours or recitations. It's phenomenal. But being a TA, you get to see another side of them. You get to see the behind the scenes for just how hard it is to run this program. And the mostly seamless experience you feel as a student takes a whole lot of work and effort on the backside. Personally, there's a benefit to TAing where you get to stretch skills you don't normally stretch as a student. Debugging C code, which I did in both Dr. Farmer's class as a TA and in 595. Looking at somebody else's code and trying to figure out the mess that they made of it, because it's different than the mess you made of it the semester before. That's a skill that if you go into the field of engineering, that's really half of your time is looking at old code, legacy code, right? And either fixing a bug or implementing a new feature. And if you can't understand what's going on in the code that somebody else wrote maybe 5-10 years ago, you can't do your job. It's fun. It's a lot of fun to engage with the students in that way as well. So I highly recommend anybody who is able to be a TA to do that. Figure out what your favorite class is as you go through and apply. You'll benefit, and you'll be benefiting the community as well.
I TA'd for a 596, which is algorithms. And I would echo everything that Melissa said. In addition, I mean, it is a great way to kind of really engage, because you do actually kind of build relationships with the students you meet in your office hours. And I think in addition to, I think, what Melissa was saying, there are a couple of other benefits. One is a chance to practice was sometimes an underrated skill, just kind of explaining, a complex concept to someone else in a way that they can understand. And for algorithms, certainly, but I would imagine for every other MCIT class, I mean, you get a lot of practice in just kind of breaking down a complex concept and explaining it to someone so that, they get it, they know they understand it, and can do well with the material. And the second, I think, other really kind of big benefit is that you get a better understanding the material itself. I mean, if you do well in the class, I mean, there's always more to learn, and and I think one consequence of teaching kind of the subject matter to someone else is that you you get a deeper understanding of that. For example, I remember like when I took 596, where there's there's a module on reductions, reducing NP complete problems, and some of the reductions covered in lecture were pretty complicated. One of them which was I wound up watching that lecture, I don't know, 2 or 3 times, and kind of by the end of those 2 or 3 times, I felt that I kind of understood what was going on, and could probably at least hopefully pass the question if it were asked on exam. Then I TA'd, right? I mean, I watched that lecture again, and like suddenly, the light bulb turned on my head. And I realized, oh yeah, that's what's going on. This is in fact a very elegant reduction, and it's like, I don't know, I guess sort of the clouds part of that moment. I finally kind of really felt that okay, now I understand what's really kind of going on here.
I think this segues well into our next question, so I'll let Professor Farmer.
Yeah, I was hoping to, it's related, but in any, form, what has your experience been with like professors and the TAs in the program? And since Sean, you didn't get a chance to talk yet, on that last question, I'm gonna go right to you if you don't mind.
All right, I definitely do not mind, because I've had a great experience with both professors and TAs in the program. So look, I think one thing that's really important about the TAs in particular is that the vast majority of the TAs in this program, as you can see, you have Melissa, Stephen, and myself, and there are others that are actually students in the MCIT Online Program. The benefit of that is that they have been in the students' shoes in terms of, juggling being a master's student while also working full time, and in some cases having a family and huge real life obligations. And so that's really important, because to be a good teaching assistant, as I'm starting to learn, it's only my 2nd week as a TA, you really need to put yourself in the student's shoes. And it's a lot easier to do that if you've actually been in those shoes. And then I'll stick on the professors too. We're lucky to have Dr. Farmer as now the leader of this whole program. And he is one of the best professors that I've ever had. He takes what, for some people, and I would say my impression of the class going into it, maybe some of the more dry content in terms of it's just really super. I mean, you're looking at taking a computer apart into its constituent parts and understanding how the architecture works. And I don't know, he was able to find a way to make that fun, and even like laughing in some of the, like making jokes in the lecture slides, which are like little things that make it so much more digestible. And I'll extract that point out to make a more broad point, which is that whereas when I was at Penn undergrad, I did feel a certain intensity with professors and TAs, intensity and the rigor, that stays in this online program. But actually, because we know that this is such a difficult venture that all the students are taking, being a master's student while working full time, it's a lot more lax in the sense that, professors and TAs are willing to get on your level and just work with you, and not necessarily holding you to, not that we're not holding you to high standards, because that's definitely true, but we're more understanding in my experience.
So nice to hear. I'm gonna call on you all the time, Sean. You're my I'm totally kidding, but thank you very much for those kind words. But I am glad to hear you've had a positive experience. Please, anyone else jump in if you wish.
I'll follow up on that. There are plenty of students, just by the numbers of people in Slack compared to the number of people I ever see interacting in Slack. There are definitely people that go through this program and don't seem to interact with anybody. And that's totally cool if that is like your personality and you can just absorb material solo. I'm not one of those people. I find some of my favorite interactions in a course are in the professor's either office hour or recitation, just depending on what they call it. If I can make every single one, I'm there for every single one. I think I attended, I may have missed like 1 or 2 of Dr. Farmer's because of work obligations, but like every time the professor is having some kind of live event, if I can be there, I'm there. Now, they always record it and that's always available afterwards, but that is not at all the same to me as that live interaction. You get to know them, they get to know you, like you see each other's faces. You get the chance to ask questions. I actually asked Dr. Farmer about how he ended up going the PhD route, and he held like a separate, I don't know if you remember that, it was about a year ago now. He held a separate live event just to answer my questions about the PhD route. Professors are they want you to get the material, and they are like rooting for you. You know, you show up, you put in the effort, you ask good questions, and they're going to meet that effort, and they're going to make sure to the best of their ability that they're explaining things in a way you can understand. So I can't speak highly enough of professors. Sean did a great job talking about the TAs. I am a TA, so I think we're incredible. But both sides of that experience, it's a program to me like none other, truly.
Awesome, thank you. Okay, so I think there's a lot of interest in this question. If you are a person who is working full-time, how do you integrate the courses into your schedule?
Well, I think the best solution is that if you can set up a routine, that's great. I mean, right. You're always going to, like study for, I don't know, right. I don't know, whatever, 8 to 10 in the morning or whatever works for you. But yeah, I mean, in real life, that's that's not always possible. And really, you just got to be flexible and be willing to improvise sometimes. I mean, like, okay, maybe I can't regularly set aside a block of time, but hey, I've got 15 minutes at lunch, so that's enough to, watch, this chunk of the lecture. Really, honestly, I think in practical terms, you're going to really kind of need to be flexible and be willing to improvise. That's to really kind of be able to kind of fit the classes into your schedule and really do well.
Yeah, I can relate to this question significantly. I work full time. I also have 4 children and I homeschool them. So finding slots of time, like there's just no time to waste. So some of the things I do is like when I go for a walk in the morning, I probably look crazy to the neighbors, but I'll have either the textbook or this, printed out slides. Like I'll read while I walk, or I'll watch the lectures on my phone while I walk. I try to fit it into what I'm already doing, or if I'm on my rowing machine, again, I'll have like the lectures up. I find it super helpful I'm more of a morning person than an evening person. So I'll wake up earlier, get in some study time before my day starts, before my kids are up, because I could try to do it in the evening, but my brain just crashes after work. So that works for me. Other people are night owls and they'd rather stay up till 1 a.m. And if they get 5 hours of sleep, they're fine. Like that's, so I think everybody's scenario is different, and it is totally doable to fit it in. You just have to figure out what is going to work for your schedule, the way you operate. My weekends are largely filled with MCIT. So probably half of my days on Saturday and Sunday, half of my waking hours, at least a third, are studying of some sort or another, or trying to finish a homework. And then during the week, I try to get in a good bit of time each day, because these courses are tough. So if you wait for the weekend for everything, then the TAs already had their office hours. So you're kind of on your own when you get that bug for the assignment that's due on Monday. So it's also scheduling around the course support and when those office hours are available and when those recitations are available. And that differs by semester and by course as well.
I wondered if anyone would also add, this is a bit of a switch question, but the big differences between like this as a degree program versus like taking a MOOC, if anybody has actually taken one before on our panel, I'm not sure.
I'll take this one.
By all means.
Yeah, so it's funny because another question that we had is what helped you prepare the most for this program? And I would say having taken a MOOC was one of the best preparations because it helped me get acquainted with learning styles that are different from the traditional classroom experience. So learning online versus learning in the classroom obviously is very different, as many of us have seen with COVID, that's kind of been the only option. But now, so understanding that is very important. but of course they are completely different. There's an article I was actually just reading on this topic, and I think the big important thing is the cohort. So in a MOOC, it is purely, completely just self-paced. You can start a class whenever you want to, and you can do everything at your leisure in its purest form. There's no one telling you have to get this done by this time. Some of the MOOCs have built-in reminders and such, but really, you just do it whenever you want to. And you're also taking a MOOC in a silo for that reason, because there's not anyone necessarily taking it at the same time as you. But for MCIT, you can either really start in the spring or the fall, and as you kind of progress throughout the program, you'll probably be taking it at the same pace as many other students that start at the same time as you, and you start to then see familiar faces. And this is where it all goes back to what we were talking about for so long at that first question about the community. And honestly, the content is very similar across MOOCs and master's programs. I would say that this is still much more rigorous than other MOOCs that I've seen, but a huge benefit of being in this program is that you have the community there around you. And honestly, like it sounds corny, but you do learn from your classmates, whether you're in a recitation or an office hour or in a study group, and you're having these conversations outside of class, outside of taking notes. That's when things really come together. So that's, to me, the biggest benefit. And that's why you have to go for something like MCIT over just going for MOOCs if you really want to have a deep understanding of the topic.
Yeah, I would also add to that. I've taken MOOCs before and I learned a lot, but I would say that the attitude, there's a fundamental difference in attitude between typical MOOC and MCIT, right? Right, for a typical MOOC, right? You might have 10,000 students, 5%, complete the course, and it's a success. And sure, 500 people, learned something new. That's not trivial, but that's not really MCIT's attitude at all, where it's just, kind of you sink or swim. Right. There's a lot more, as Sean was saying, there's a lot of community support, but there's also a lot of support in professors and TAs who kind of, really do want you to learn the material and know it well. It's not, I would imagine that, if there was an MCIT class where only 5% of people were failing, that would be that'd be considered catastrophic, I'm sure, for MCIT. So I would say it's really a fundamental difference in attitude on how you're approaching kind of teaching the subject matter to students.
Yeah.
I think,
Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, I think it's a little hard to explain what the experience is like and how it's different from a MOOC, because they're both online, right? They're both even on the Coursera platform, for example. But like Sean was saying, in a MOOC, you can it's self-paced, you can sort of, participate in it whenever you want. And while that's kind of true with MCIT Online, there are assignments that are due typically every week or every 2 weeks. And so there's a pacing to it that is structured. So let's say there is an assignment due at the end of a week. Within that week, you can structure your schedule however you want, right? So you can watch the videos whenever you want, you can work on the assignments whenever you want, you can choose whether to attend the live sessions or not. But then when the assignment is due, it's due, just like in a on-campus classroom. So it's sort of a hybrid, I guess, between, we sometimes use the word flexible because it is flexible in a certain way, but we also want people to realize it's also a rigorous degree program with deadlines. And I guess another type of flexibility is that if you need to take a semester off, for example, that's always fine. We realize that is life happens, especially in the middle of your career. So sometimes folks have to take a semester off here or there, and that's totally fine too.
I would also add just the one other thing. I'm sorry, Sean, you were about to say, I'm sorry. It's just that, we're also, each course, we have an administration team set up for each course. So we're, constantly making sure all the students are doing well. If somebody's doing poorly, we're contacting them, making sure that, we reach out and see what's going on. And I think that's a big difference from a MOOC, in the sense that there's a real personal involvement. And it's not just a course, like a group of admins you've never met. It's me for my course and a couple of other folks that are are meeting, and we're just kind of making sure and hoping very much in any way we can to find ways to help you. So we're always trying to reach out to the students to make sure they're progressing well through the course and having a good experience and really just getting an understanding of the material.
All right, and let me just make my one last point. I know it's a faux pas because I did speak earlier and I should have said it then. I think I glossed over this because it's like the most obvious point, but also it's so worth mentioning. We're talking about like a certificate that you get for completing a course online versus a degree from an Ivy League institution. And I know maybe that sounds superficial, and maybe in some ways, depending on how you think about it, it can be, but it actually makes all the difference. Because in a MOOC, the reason why you don't care if you miss a deadline is because, oh, well, it's a MOOC and I can just pick it up whenever I want to. But in a rigorous degree program such as Penn's, you miss a week and you have an F for that assignment. And that feeling that social pressure or whatever you want to call it, really is what drives you to learn the content all the more deeply. So even though it's like obvious, it's very worth mentioning that we're talking about an advanced degree program compared to a certificate. So can't leave that out.
True. Yep, and it's the same diploma that the on-campus folks get. It's the same curriculum. So
it's like you said, Sean, that cohort feel, I feel like that makes the big difference. You're like my kids say, because they love High School Musical, the series. We're all in it together. So yeah, I feel like that kind of pulls you all in, and it helps get you through a course. You're not alone. That's a big deal, I think.
The last pre-prepared question is, what helped you prepare the most for this program, if you remember?
So I didn't do anything specific to prepare. It was recommended. You may still recommend this. I think it was Dr. Murphy's algorithmic thinking, or what you can, there we go. Computational thinking. So yeah. I went through that because it was recommended, part of the application process. I did do a coding bootcamp prior to Penn, which, while helpful, left so many holes in my understanding, which is why I'm here now. So I came in with a bit of a heads up, but not as big of a heads up as you would think, having that background. Really, I think the thing that would most prepare you is just coming in, being willing to engage in the community, being eager to interact with professors. Like if I were to give my 2019 self advice, I probably wouldn't do anything different, quite honestly, because I came in with those mindsets. But just coming in and being ready to work really hard and ask the questions you need to ask. But technically, I didn't do anything in particular to prepare. Oh, and I'll try one other thing on that. I think the program does an incredible job of meeting students where they're at. There's no expectation of having a technical background, right? That's the whole point of this program versus a typical master CS where you need a CS undergrad to get in and do well. Some of my classmates who have had zero technical background at all before coming in are just as skilled, I think, as the ones who had a technical background, because the foundational programming course really sets your foundation. And Dr. Farmer's course, like just every single course build, or at least of the cores, build on the one before it, gives you a very thorough understanding. You're going to know what you need to know if you simply do the coursework.
Yeah, I mean, I basically agree with pretty much everything Melissa said. I just kind of want to add that, I mean, when you enter the program and you're taking 591, the basic introduction to the software development course, I mean, you're going to see a pretty wide range of backgrounds for your classmates. I mean, some people basically never coded, and some people probably maybe have been working as software developers for a few years. And yeah, I mean, sure, that kind of, if you do have like, coding experience, that's going to help you initially, but people who, right, I mean, don't know how to, have never coded before, I mean, they may have a steep learning curve, but eventually they do pretty well. And, I think by the end of the program, there's not that huge wide range of in skill levels. So it's mostly, it's mostly about the basics. You prepare the same way, I think, anytime you're kind of preparing to learn something new, right? I mean, you need sort of an attitude that, you're going to persevere and you're going to treat, whatever mistakes you make as learning opportunities.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. So for those folks who are watching, this is your opportunity to ask questions to our students. People have submitted some questions already, so I will put those out there. There's some great questions. So some of you hinted at this, but how time intensive is the program, or how much time per week would you say you put in? This is kind of one of the most common questions we get, I would say.
I'll give it a shot. Yeah, it's like the most common question and simultaneously like the hardest question to answer, because you can't really give a straight up answer for that because it depends on so many things. So I'll just talk about some like factors that go into it and then give like an overall assessment. Or maybe I'll give the overall assessment first. Overall assessment is like 15 to 20 hours per week. That's kind of like the rule of thumb that we give, but that will be different based on a lot of different factors. I would say the most important thing is your background coming into the program. Like if you have any coding experience or a quantitative background, then your learning curve will be much less steep, especially in the first couple of courses, which are like an introductory coding class in Java and Python and a mathematical foundations for computer science class. So, if you've taken through calculus or whatever requirements that you have in undergrad in math, and if you have some experience with kind of computational logic, then you'll do a little bit better. I don't want to say do better, but you won't necessarily be struggling the same way as you would in the first couple classes. But that's really the thing that matters the most, because computer or coding assignments aren't so linear where you can just kind of say, it'll take this long. It's like, if you get stuck on something, you're stuck and you can't just brute force your way through it, unfortunately. So that's why it's like, you have to look at the problem maybe on Monday, and then while you're eating lunch on Tuesday, maybe you're thinking about it and something comes into mind and then you continue working on it. It's not like you can just cram the night before. And I'll let my fellow colleagues speak on that too, because I might have missed some other things.
I think what Sean said is spot on. To give maybe a more concrete answer, I think there was one semester. My pacing has been pretty much a semester. That's about the limit of what I can handle. And I think I had one semester where there were weeks where it was like 7 to 10 hours and I was good for keeping up with the material. And that was very much an anomaly for the overarching of the program. There were definitely semesters, Dr. Farmer's was one of them, where I think like 20 to 25 hours for that course was common. The other class that was like that for me was not algorithms. Is that the right word? 596. My brain is.
Yep.
Yeah, that is algorithms. For a minute, I thought that was. I love the class. The professor I had was amazing, but for me, extremely difficult material. And it just took my brain many iterations of going over the material to grasp it. So for me, those were kind of the two benchmarks. On average, I think the 15 to 20 hours a week per class is your standard range.
How do you interact with classmates on projects, given that some of them are from different time zones?
For the classes that are project-based, or where you're interacting with other people, generally you get to choose your teammates. So you can opt to pick people that are within a time zone or two, or you can opt to have somebody. I partnered with one classmate in one semester, and we were almost like 10 hours difference in time. So either it was really late for him or really early for me. And we went into that eyes open, like we did that intentionally. So you get to choose your adventure in that regard. And if you're operating over time zones, you're just working asynchronously. So somebody's working on one aspect, somebody else is working on another. You'll learn how to use GitHub to keep track of your code. And if you absolutely have to work synchronously, pair programming, then you just figure out that time. It's very flexible.
Yeah, and one cool thing about our Slack community is that there are a lot of channels that have been organically created by the students, and there are channels that focus on centered around geography too. So we have like, MCIT Bay Area, MCIT Australia. So, people can also connect to each other within certain areas if they want to do that. So I think this might be a good question to end our student portion on. What was the biggest challenge for each of the panelists, and how did you overcome the challenge? So I can vamp a little bit if you want some time to think about this.
Is this what class was the most challenging, or a specific incident within a class?
I would say incident within a class might be the most helpful.
I can start.
Yeah, go
and
for it.
I'll answer very, very slowly to give my colleagues some extra time to think. I think this might be pretty common amongst all of the students in the community. Is the first class is the hardest in a lot of ways. It's the easiest in some ways. Like on paper, it kind of is easiest, especially when you're looking back at what you've learned. And it's the hardest because you're going from 0 to 1. Great book by Peter Thiel, in case you are looking for a book. But essentially, you have like no foundation, and you're trying to grasp something that's very unnatural and very counterintuitive for a lot of people to learn. So I remember specifically the hardest assignment, and I know that they've evolved the class over time, but it was creating a blackjack solitaire game in 591. So you're using Java, and you have to create this, like, very, for someone, who is outside the class, it just looks very bare bones. It doesn't even look that cool, but you're creating like a card game. And it's just like the week before, the assignment was so benign. And then this week, it's just, okay, here's a little bit of starter code and figure it out. And I remember being up until, whatever, like crazy hours in the like early morning, late night, multiple nights in a row trying to work on this because I put it off a little bit more than I should have. And it was very painful. Now, how did I overcome it? I guess it's persistence in that, I could have quit, I guess, if I wanted to, but I knew that I really enjoy this. So it's really knowing yourself and knowing, is it worth it? And you kind of have to remind yourself as you're going through these challenging things. And that's where the community also is really helpful. I wish I would have used that more early on, but everyone's going through this at the same time. So just digging deep or talking to the community, like, hey, this is really hard. I don't know how I'm going to get through this. Reach out and get a mentor. I'm a peer mentor in the group. So I think, that's a really helpful way just to talk to someone who's been through it. Yeah, that was it for me.
I guess I think the hardest and most stressful assignment I can remember doing was it's a homework assignment for 550, which is databases. And basically this particular homework assignment asked you not only to, I guess, write some SQL queries, but also you had to, you're given some starter code, React starter code, and basically asked to kind of finish a website that would, the user can input in a query and then there's some backend code that executes the SQL query and hopefully returns the right answers. And I had actually gone to databases just sort of expecting, this would be a good course on relational databases, not about web development. So I was, I remember, I looked over the assignment. I think I had a minute or two of shock where it's like I was just wondering, oh my God, is this thing really asking me to finish this website? And So like, yeah, there was like a minute or two where, yeah, I was just kind of in denial. But, after that, it's, I kind of got going on, okay, like, hey, there's really a lot of stuff I need to learn about React to, to make this website work. And I mean, at the time, it was incredibly stressful because I had no web development experience. This is the first time I'd ever, seen React. Yeah, I was really stressing about whether or not I was going to be able to finish that assignment. But, when I look back, it's actually one of the, probably the one homework assignment I'm most proud of because, I did wind up learning a lot. And, as I look back, I mean, that is, maybe kind of the sort of a useful, that's really kind of a useful skill to take away, that because, you're constantly going to have to learn on a job. No course is ever going to be able to teach you everything you know. So there are a lot of times when, just in the real world, when you need to learn something fast, and, being able to work through an assignment, really kind of gave me that kind of confidence that yes, this is highly technical, it's totally complicated, but I'm confident that I'm going to be able to to learn this and get what I need done.
Yeah, I love that example.
So I apologize that I'm going last because my answer will be very anticlimactic. I think for each class, all of the difficult moments are just morphed into a single like dreaded memory. And I don't have a great crystal clear recollection like these two do. I guess I'll bring up 592, which I don't think anybody's mentioned yet, which is discrete math. So not only am I not a quote unquote math person, discrete math is just a very different type of math. My first semester in the program, I opted to do 2 classes, which was extremely difficult while working full time. So just that time crunch itself was extremely overwhelming. And then on top of that, it was this course that just was foreign to me. So as a very generic general answer, pretty much every homework was super difficult. And I just really leaned into TA office hours, and I think about like week 3 or 4, Professor Tannen realized how clueless collectively the class was. Like the lectures just weren't totally doing it for us. And he started weekly office hours, which I think he's kept up, but like he didn't start like that. So I was there for every one of his office hours, asking the stupid questions that people were too embarrassed to ask. That's just my approach across the board. And I actually ended up doing fairly well in that class, but it was difficult. Every single week, every single assignment, every single topic just took me a while to grasp.
Well, Sean, Stephen, and Melissa, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with us today and for answering questions and sharing your perspectives. It is fantastic to have you as students. These are only 3 of the many wonderful people that are in our program. We have over 1,000. I forget what we're at now, but it's a pretty awesome thing to behold. So yes, thank you again. You're welcome to hang out with us a little longer or take off and get back to your homework. Except for Stephen, he's graduated. But Professor Farmer is going to now go through some of the basics about our degree program. So it's an online Masters of Computer and Information Technology. And I will turn on our pretty slides here so he can go through some of this information.
Thank you. Thanks, Olivia. I also just wanted to thank all of our students on our panel. That was such a nice thing to hear. I get to meet you all in office hours, but it's a pleasure to hear you speak for extended periods of time. So I get to hear more about your experience here in the program, and those are just wonderful things to hear about the program. I'm glad you've enjoyed it as much and you've been working as hard as you have. That part I knew, but it's just nice to hear. So my hope, for the next few minutes is 1, hopefully not to get too interrupted by my kids. They just came home from school, so they come in. But 2, to go through some statistics, some facts about the program. This is definitely an admission sort of, info session, if you will. So I want to give you some more info. And so I'll start with the slide that you see right here. One thing to know is that MCIT on campus has been around for 20 years. I joined it about 7 years ago as an MCIT Online instructor right after my daughter was born. And I started working for Penn. And MCIT Online has been around since spring 2019. And what we did when we created the online version of MCIT on campus was to, use all the same courses, the core courses, some of the electives, and have each of the instructors that had created those courses for the on-campus classes to make them for MCIT Online. So you're really getting the identical program, whether you're on campus or online in terms of content. You even have the same instructors in a lot of cases. The knowledge that is conferred through our MCIT online program is really the same as a computer science degree. I think we've always phrased it as, MCIT IT instead of a CS degree, just because we have people of various backgrounds coming in. So unlike a CS master's program, we're going to give you all the information that you need that you might not have because you just didn't have the background coming in. So you don't have to have an undergraduate in computer science. You just have to have an undergraduate degree in something and done some good quantitative work in it at some point, and really just have a passion for this stuff. So that's what we're looking for. As you probably already know, maybe not, is that the degree at the end is a master's degree, and it is a diploma from Penn, and it doesn't say anything about the word online. So it is the same degree, whether you're on campus or whether you're online, and that I think that always helps people feel a little bit better. There's really no difference between the two in that sense of knowledge conferred and the diploma that you will receive. I think it's been referred to a bit at this point, but we have a really, I think, strong online community. Robust is a perfect word. There's people from every background, and it always amazes me in my office hours how many different professions people are coming from. We just recently, I was on my office hours this past week, and I met 4 accountants. I was just blown away. One, because I'm excited I can get my taxes done for free now. No, that's not true at all. But then 2, just that we have these backgrounds. We have artists in our program. We have people who majored in philosophy. We have, people that just do all sorts of different things. And it makes for a really robust online community in that sense. It really makes for a community of people that are coming from all sorts of different areas and just kind of putting their all into the program and finding a lot of different perspectives, to share with people and say, this was my experience. Maybe it'll help you. People see problems in different ways because of their backgrounds, and that sort of diversity of background gives it a great strength. So I think that you really will appreciate our online community if you come. The other great things to know is that, much like the on-campus version, it's eligible for federal financial aid. So that's huge. Also, if your employer supports paying for tuition at a university, this qualifies for that as well. That helped me get through my master's program, so that was big. In terms of stats, we have, 1,447 active students. So that's pretty exciting, pretty proud of that number. 53% of which are international students that represent 46 different countries. 39% are women, and we're working on that number getting up every time we go through admissions. And we have an age range of 20 to 70. And I love that one too. That's another one of my favorite stats because it reminds me of like Legos, age 2 to whatever you want to be, because it's just about interest and love of the material. Now, in terms of curriculum, ultimately it's just 10 courses, I say but there's 10 courses there. There's work to be done there. There are 6 core classes, so everyone has to take them. They range from the ones you see on the screen there. Those are the 6: software development, foundations of computer science, introduction to computer systems. That's my class, where you learn all about CPUs. Data structures, where you kind of formalize things a little bit more in terms of how to program to, structures of data that can contain information properly. Computer systems program, you learn about operating systems there, algorithms, kind of learning the art of solving a problem through algorithms. Then you have 4 elective courses of your choosing, and we have a lot of electives now. We add them all the time. Every semester, new ones come out. We adapt some from the Masters of Computer Science program and bring them over to ours. So you'll see a lot of the courses go from one program to another. And we have things that range from like machine learning and AI to, security, and, just working with all sorts of tools that you have maybe heard of and maybe been interested in, or maybe you've never heard of and just are going to be introduced to through the electives. So a lot of, great electives to choose from. In terms of, pacing it, we always recommend, and this is a sample version that you're seeing here. This is if you were trying to do it in 16 months. It's doable, it's possible. I would say you were full-time only to this program, but it could be anything. You might be working, but this is a lot if you were working. About 3 courses for the first 2 semesters that you take it. And then in the last 2 semesters, you would do 2 electives. I can't say that's the norm, and maybe we'll see the next slide where it's a little closer. The reality of things is at the most, what I recommend to people, definitely the 20-month plan is a better way to go in terms of, making your life more manageable, having a life outside of the classroom as much as can be possible while you're taking such courses. But, 2 courses per semester is a good way to go. Certainly you're centering on the core courses first. So you notice we said semester 1, 2, and 3 are filled with the core courses, and then the latter 2 semesters are filled with 2 courses that are from the elective category. But we also really recommend, if you can take like 1 course a semester, that's the way I did my master's degree. And then at least the first semester, if you can take 1 just to see how it goes, and then maybe bring it up, the next semester. We recommend that as a good approach.
Yeah, and if I can just interject really quickly. So we have these sample plans, but really people can really pick and choose their own pacing. So let's say you wanted to start with 1 course, and then the next semester you're like, all right, I think I'm ready to ramp up to 2. So maybe you do that. Maybe you take the summer off since the summer is optional. And then, it's not like when you apply, you have to like sign me up for the 20-month plan versus the 16. Those are just 2 possible, configurations that a person could do, especially like he was saying, if you're trying to finish quickly. But it is, the pacing of how many classes you take is very flexible.
Yes, and the nice part is they're offered all year round as the core courses. So you could take them any semester that you wanted, and that's the wonderful part of it. In terms of application details, what you want to submit with your application, certainly your resume, a personal statement that you've really worked on, had other people read it over, make sure it's, represents you and the things that are important to you, because we love them, we want to read them, we value them. Certainly and this is a nice one, unofficial college transcripts. You don't have to get your official ones yet to save you some money if you're just applying and, you're trying to watch the fees. There is an $80 fee, unfortunately, for the application, but that is the only one. Letters of recommendation requested. So at that point, you've kind of identified who you want to be your letters of recommendation writers, and you submit them with the application. And then we reach out to them for the letters. Certainly your GRE and GMAT are optional, but they do help tell if you have, the quantitative background, if maybe your quantitative background isn't that strong just yet. That can help us in determining that in your application. The TOEFL, if applicable, that's when you want to get in there. And then, in terms of checklist, you just want to you can go in and check the status of things, like were your recommendations submitted yet? Were all the official documents received? Those kinds of things. And then finally, if you're admitted, and we hope you all are, that you'll officially send us your transcripts that will match your unofficial college transcripts. And these deadlines that you have here are very well published on our website. So if you don't catch them while you're watching this webinar, no problem. Just keep these dates in mind.
Yes, and a quick update, October 15th rather than October 1st is our next one. So you have a little bit more time to prepare your application.
Perfect. And then, in terms of tuition, one of the nicest things, in terms of a tuition comparison with the on-campus version of MCIT on campus is this one costs a bit less. So it's a lot of money. There's no question, $25,000, but it's a significant savings because of the fact that it's online. We basically charge $2,500 per course unit. And so essentially, 10 courses, 1 unit per course, that gets you to your 25,000 there. There are fees. This is the grand total is $1,400 in fees. Essentially, that just works out to $140 per course unit. Again, the payment schedules vary depending on how many courses you enroll each semester. So this is kind of a little example on the bottom here.
Yeah.
Of
So you do not need to pay all of it up front. You just pay at the beginning of the semester for how many classes you're going to be taking that semester.
Yep. It makes it really very affordable in that way, or doable, I should say. I don't know about affordable. But the outcomes of where people are after graduation, we have at this point, the survey is just an 89% response for 63 graduates that these numbers are coming from. We're going to update it in November, but the quick summary is 78% of our graduates are currently working full-time or continuing their education. The top reported industry that people are going into is technology, which is great to hear. And the top reported job functions are software engineer and developer, data and analytics, consulting, product manager, information technology. All these things are very much, the place we hope that you will end up in, or with your degree. Honestly, you could take any version of it. I was talking to a student today that is in the film industry and just wanted to learn about animation a little bit. And so they're combining these pieces. They're going to go back to the film industry and take the tech with them, so that, these might be the top reported, but that might not be, you might be something very custom. And when that graduate survey comes around, please make sure to participate so we can update this list with some cool facts. Last but not least, the annual salary there is the average annual salary is $125,000 approximately, and so that's great to hear that. That's nice numbers to come back with. Olivia and I are thinking of enrolling in the program, so we can do that. Those are good numbers to hear. So I'm delighted to see those numbers and these job functions, and the fact that people are really loving technology enough after the program to go into it and make it their full-time life.
Yeah, and I'll just add that these statistics, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe they are very similar to what we would see with the on-campus outcomes for MCIT. And if you want to stay tuned for updated numbers in November, you can always check it out on our website, online.cs.upenn.edu. So let's see, we have, okay. So I think
place to find all this stuff. I'm sorry, Olivia, please.
Yeah. So we need to wrap things up, but this slide shows you some of the ways that you can further connect with us. As I was saying earlier, we have a really awesome website that you can check out, online.seas.upenn.edu. We have a ton of FAQs there, or you can just send an email to our admissions team at online-admissions. We have a mailing list that you can sign up for. We are going to be holding weekly coffee chats starting next week, just like casual Zoom drop-in hours where anyone can stop in and hang out with myself and my 2 colleagues. If you have, a problem with your application or just a quick question that you want to pop in and ask, you're welcome to do that. And then, just some information about some non-credit courses that we have on Coursera that are kind of good ways of dipping your toe in to see if this field is a good fit for you. If you've really never had any exposure to programming, you could start off with computational thinking for problem solving. And perhaps if you want a little bit something more rigorous, we have an accelerated introduction to programming with Python and Java specialization, and it's a series of 4 courses that contain lecture videos. They're the same lecture videos that are actually used in the degree program itself. So it gives you a little bit of a flavor. The assignments are not as rigorous as what you would find in the degree program, but if you are looking for ways to stand out in your application, taking one or both of these series of courses are very helpful for the admissions committee because it shows that you really are interested in pen engineering and you've had some experience with online learning, even on the same platform that you're going to be participating on at MCIT Online. So with that, yeah, we just want to really thank you for joining us today and for sticking it through to the end. We hope that this was helpful. Thank you so much, Professor Farmer, for joining us today as well.
Thank you for having me as a part of it. And thank you to Olivia and all the panelists. I can't thank them enough, and all the people that attended today. It was wonderful to see so many people on the webinar.
It was, and we're going to be posting this video on YouTube as well. So if you missed something, check in on our social media pages the next few days. We'll post the link and you can share it with your friends. All right, take care, everyone.
Have a great day.